and that, in fact, this is our land. So beginning with that premise, whether you're Moor or not Moor, I'm going to start with what law really is. Most of us think that we go into a courtroom and understand the difference between a court and a courtroom, that the people who purport to use law really use words of art to make you believe, in fact, that law is on the table when you walk into a courthouse or a courtroom, when in fact that's not true. And I would like to share with you tonight, regardless of your religious persuasion, what law really is. Law, and as Muslims would say, all law, is A-L-L space L-A-W, all law, all law. So for anyone who's of a Christian persuasion, don't be misled, and when you hear the term all law is God, all right? That is also what we would say in lawful terms a misnomer. Allah is not God. God has no capacity and no standing to all law, because God means governmental ordinance departments. There is no comparison. Now, who can use law? Law can only be used by people who are in their sovereign capacity. And as I will share with you tonight, the majority of the people in the world, and I'm not going to get into all of the details about that, but the majority of the people in the world, 99% of them live in slavery today. So in 1863, via the Emancipation Proclamation, and I challenge you to go look in a law dictionary and look up the definition of emancipation and proclamation, and you will see that a proclamation is not a law. A proclamation is a public announcement by elected officials. It is not a law. So the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 did not set any slaves free. What it did was standardize slavery, the United States being the model for the standardization of slavery, that all of the other nations around the world, as they reduced their people from their sovereign capacity and forced them to join nation states, then they were able to issue statute, codes, ordinances, resolutions on them. And a statute, as in a state statute of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is not a law. It is corporate policy of the corporation that calls itself the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Incorporated. All right? Now, a code is not a law. The United States codes, the code of the laws of the United States of America that are used in federal court and the Supreme Court, are not law. They are what they say they are. They are codes, ordinances, and resolutions of a municipality of the city of Philadelphia, which is a private, nonprofit corporation that calls itself the City of Philadelphia. An ordinance and a resolution, as in parking ordinances, they are not law. They are what they say they are. They are ordinances and they are resolutions. All right? And the reason they are not law is because the only people who can issue law are people who are acting in their sovereign capacity. And the people who sit in these seats as elected officials are not, in fact, in their sovereign capacity. They are in a corporate ward status, meaning that they are wards of the state. They are members of the corporation, which is a nonprofit, that calls itself the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And as long as they have a birth certificate on record with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, with that birth certificate being a contract, a birth certificate is a contract, and as long as you have a contract with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Incorporated, you belong to them, and that's what slavery really is. All right? So who can use law? If you are a member of a corporate ward state, if you are a member of a corporate ward nation that calls itself the United States of America, you are a citizen. Look in the law dictionary and look up the definition of citizen. A citizen is not a sovereign. A resident is not a sovereign. Therefore, if you use an address, which is a fictitious number associated with a designation issued by a corporate ward, right? then you become under the jurisdiction of those people who are also corporate wards, but who are also slaveholders. All right? So if you are operating in that capacity, law does not apply to you. If you are a resident of the city of Philadelphia, which is a private, nonprofit corporation, and you say you are a resident of the city of Philadelphia, then the ordinances and the resolutions of that private, nonprofit corporation apply to you. If you are a citizen of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Incorporated, which is a private, nonprofit corporation, then the statutes of that nonprofit corporation apply to you. If you are a citizen of the United States of America, which is a private, nonprofit corporation, then the code of the laws, right, apply to you. But if you are a sovereign of the Moorish Empire, those ordinances, those resolutions, those codes, those statutes do not apply to you because you are not a member of the corporate ward state. It's as simple as that. And they understand the difference. This is why on their document they use words of art. They use the word label. They use the word person. They use the word address. All of these things that place you in their jurisdiction, and you unknowingly fill out forms every day. And every time you fill out a form, you enter into a contract. I don't care what kind of form it is. It's a contract. A driver's license application is a contract. A Social Security application is a contract. When you call up the telephone company and you make a verbal contract over the telephone, this is why they can bill you. When you sign a deed, it is a contract. When you fill out a voter registration form, it is a contract. Does everybody understand that? Don't ever think anything that you put your signature on becomes a contract. All right? Now, the fact that you are not in your sovereign status means that you make a contract as a minor. They don't care. They know you are a minor because and to be other than a minor, you have to be in your proper person at law. And how we write that is this. Can I have a pen here? That's working? Can you bear with me for a minute and let me put this on because I can't. Can y'all see that? Impropria persona. Impropria persona. When you are in your corporate ward status, you look like this to the court. Pro se. Pro se meaning they get you in the court and they bring someone in called a got that? Pro se cutor, a prosecutor, because you're in a corporate ward status. Now, if you're in propria persona, say in their criminal allegations, the prosecutor cannot come into the courtroom and say anything to you because you're not in pro se status. Makes sense, right? The issues of law are threefold. The issues of law are status, jurisdiction, and adjudication. The first thing that happens when you walk into a courtroom in your corporate ward status is that they already make the assumption that you are a ward of the state and that you don't know any better. So they immediately start adjudicating you. As the first thing that happens when we walk into a courtroom is that we place our status on the record. On the record. We come in with our flag. We come in with our treaty. We come in with the Constitution we signed with them, and understanding that the Constitution is a contract. be other than a minor, you have to be in your proper person at law. And how we write that is this. Can I have a pen? That's working. Can you bear with me for a minute and let me put this on, because I can't. Can y'all see that? Impropria persona. Impropria persona. When you are in your corporate ward status, you look like this to the court. Pro se. Pro se meaning they get you in the court and they bring someone in called a got that? Prosecutor, a prosecutor, because you're in a corporate ward status. Now, if you're impropria persona, say in their criminal allegations, the prosecutor cannot come into the courtroom and say anything to you because you're not in pro se status. Makes sense, right? The issues of law are threefold. The issues of law are status, jurisdiction, and adjudication. The first thing that happens when you walk into a courtroom in your corporate ward status is that they already make the assumption that you are a ward of the state and that you don't know any better. So they immediately start adjudicating you. As Moors, the first thing that happens when we walk into a courtroom is that we place our status on the record. On the record. We come in with our flag. We come in with our treaty. We come in with the Constitution we signed with them, and understanding that the Constitution is a contract. It's a contract between who? It's a contract between the United States Republic and the United States of America. But there are certain clauses in that contract that apply to Moors, which takes us back to the Treaty of 1787. But that contract between the United States and the United States of America does not apply to us other than that part that discusses the treaty. So it's not relevant for us to go into any courtroom and argue about their ordinances, their codes, their statutes. The only thing we're in there to talk about is, have we violated the treaty? Have we violated that part, which is Article 6 of the Constitution, that applies to us? That's the only question in the courtroom, because the status of the individuals looks like this. You and the judge. There's nobody else that you need to discuss anything with in the courtroom besides the judge. The prosecutor is invisible to you. Now, what do you have to say to that judge? My honor, not your honor. What is your status? What is your name? What is your nationality? All right? And do not let them get away with saying, I am a U.S. citizen. You cannot be a citizen and sit a bench. You cannot be a member of the Bar Association, which is a private, nonprofit corporation that issues registration numbers to its members who do not have a license to practice law in any state. Because in order to have a license to practice law, you must have your proper person. And in order to be impropria persona in this country, Whether that be North America, Central America, or South America, you must be a Moor. If they want to be sovereign, they've got to go home. They cannot be sovereign here. All right? The next issue of law is jurisdiction. Now, let me stick with status. What is the status of the prosecutor? What is the status of the district attorney? What is the status of Lynn Abraham? Does anybody in this room know her nationality? I don't. That's an important question to ask her if she served me with any papers. Well, who are you? Where is your license to practice law? Where is your proof of naturalization in my land? Who gave you the authority to be here? Right? Who issued you authority to act in any capacity, to file any complaint or any charges against anyone? That's the question. And I say to you, she can't answer those questions. Right? So then, if you walk into a courtroom and nobody else has the status to be there, automatically challenge the jurisdiction of the court. There's nothing else that you need to say. There's nothing else to be said. Stand mute. Let them proceed, because guess what? They cannot proceed. You have a question.
Unmute. There we go. All right. So now we got our internet listeners on, and they were listening to Valera. Let's see. The recording is called Law of the Moors, but I believe it's also entitled What Law Is. And it has. How many people have ever heard Valera's lecture on Law of the Moors? It might be, it's on YouTube under Law of the Moors, but I have the original DVD, which is Law, how does it go? Law, what is law? What is law? That's, and the DVD that I had of her doing that lecture is actually 2 DVDs. But I do believe that that recording on YouTube might be the whole thing, but I never really paid attention, so I can't really say for sure. But one of the things that she's talking about, and she's so absolutely correct, and it's so absolutely timeless, is law and what law is. She's also talking about identifying the proper parties. She kind of is going into that. If you pay attention to what she's saying that, these people that you're interacting with, they're not government. How many people know this? They're not government. How do you know they're not government? All right, but besides the fact that they're not abiding by the law, how else would you know that? Well, one of the reasons why we do this class, is so that people are informed and they know how to do the appropriate research, because where we are right now is these back and forth writs that we write to these municipal employees. It's not cutting it. And in my opinion, at this time and this place, it's a waste of time, complete waste of time. And the reason I say that is because these people have been using us to generate revenue. And if you listen to the conversations, how many people have ever had interactions in terms of a citation? Motor vehicle issue. I mean, I should see just about everybody's hand raised. You've never had a ticket? It's really a citation. If you look up in their statutes, it's called a citation, and they actually have there's a process for handling the citation. Most people don't know this. I didn't know it until this year. And I went looking for some information. I didn't know it because it's always been, when I look at the components of the ticket, it has all the markings of a bill of attainder. What? Oh, well, yeah. It has all the markings of a bill of attainder, which is why you have to know the Constitution, because in the American Constitution, 1791, it tells you that bills of attainders are prohibited. So why are these people giving you a bill of attainder at the side of the road? And who are these people who are operating as witness, complainant, prosecutor, judge on American soil at the side of the road? Who are these people? Anybody know who they are? See, because, what was that? Corruptors. Well, you can call them that, but in law, when you're writing your writ, you have to be able to identify them, right? You have to be able to identify them. You have to be able to let the world know who they are. So our major issue, in my opinion, and let me know if you disagree, our major issue is that you have people who are making a demand of income from you at the side of the road, right? They're kidnapping you and then making a huge demand of issue and putting a bond on you at the side of the road, right? Right? Or they are stealing your private property, right? That is a setup. But do you know who these people are? Who? Pirates? All right. Well, you can say they're pirates, but can you substantiate that? Excuse me? There are ways of action. All right. But do you know what the definition of pirate is in terms of law? Okay, so a pirate, historically, is somebody who's on water stealing. But the equivalent of a pirate on land would be who? Highwayman. The highwayman. Have you ever looked up the definition of highwayman? Anybody? Let me read it to you because it's on our website, and it is most informative. And, and I'm in the process of, taking pictures of these various municipal employees and their municipal cars camped out at various different locations, right? And then put the definition of highwayman right underneath it. Because you got to know, whenever you see these municipal employees in their motor vehicle camped out in various hiding places, that the definition of that activity is this. Page 862, Black's Law 4th Edition Dictionary, abandoned. One who robs travelers upon the highway. All right? No, I'm not. This is not NE. This is right out of the case law. Straight out of the Black's Law 4th Edition Dictionary. Abandoned. One who robs travelers upon the highway. right? So when they stalk you, force you off the road, then they come over to the side of your private property and they make a demand of what? Your private property. How many people read the personal property book? When they ask you for your name or appellation, what is that? Is that your private property? All right. When they ask you for your date of birth, what is that? That's your private property. When they ask you for identification, what is that? That's right. That's right. Now, when they make a demand of this under threat of life, how are they threatening you? Do you know? No. No. How are they threatening you? How is that a straight-out threat? What do all municipal employees carry? A gun. Isn't that, I don't know about you, but I have never in my life seen a gun until I was pulled over by a municipal employee carrying a gun. And when he asked for my private property, I was in fear for my life because of the gun to refuse. That's in violation of what? What Bill of Rights? You have a right to keep your private property to yourself. In the Bill of Rights, what is that called? That's the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment is your right to remain silent and not give up any information which may be used against you. That's a constitutionally secured right. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I have watched some of these municipal employees put on their little police shows, cops, law and unlaw and no order. They call it law and order, but it's unlaw and no order, right? Hill Street Blues. I don't know why it's Hill Street Blues, except for the people that live on the hill must be and have a lot of blues, because you got these municipal employees who are accosting them on the highway every single day, right? So you got these municipal employees putting on these shows that mentally condition the people to believe that this type of activity is lawful. Because I know when I was growing up, I remember when Cops, man, how many people know this show called Cops? And when it first came out, you would go, I know I did. I went and watched it, you know, bounce to the introduction song, right? Watched it, and in my mind, I thought all of those people were absolute criminals until I learned a little something about the law, right? And then they got this other show called Repo Man. Repo Man. And when I first saw that, I couldn't believe that people was falling for that. These people are so comfortable with our unconsciousness and lack of action that they are making shows and putting it on the TV that publicize how they are violating the people's liberty on a daily basis. Law and Order alleges to be based on the New York area, the New York City Corporation, right? And every Law and Order episode, what do they call their court? They call their court now. Every time they're going into the court, and to arraign somebody, no less, it says Supreme Court, right? Supreme Court. There's no arraignment going on in the Supreme Court. There is no arraignment going on in the Supreme Court. No Supreme Court does arraignments. None. Except on the Law and Order episode that is publicizing the criminality of the New York City Corporation, where they call all their courts a Supreme Court, and people are going in there, especially the Moors up in this area, because you were told that in issues of diversity can only be handled in the Supreme Court. So you're going into this court that's calling itself a Supreme Court. Not really the court, it's the building. Take a look at the sign on the building. It's the Supreme Court building. It's not a Supreme Court because there is no arraignment going on in a Supreme Court. There's no arraignment going on in a lawful state court. The only place that you have arraignment going on is in a family court, a tax court, and a traffic court, which are not sanctioned to even exist based on the American Constitution. Those things are county courts where there's no jurisdiction for a county court to even exist. None. 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 Up north, they renamed their county courts superior courts. But if there is arraignment going on, it is a county court. There's no jurisdiction whatsoever for a county to even be operating in terms of a court, and they don't have judges, all right? There is no constitutional provision for a prosecutor or a district attorney. How many of y'all looked up in the American Constitution? There's no provision for that, because when the Constitution was drafted, the purpose and intent was that you would have a neutral party, impartial, Moors, usually, listening to the argument. The argument would be between two people. If he sold his radio, these two people would bring the suit. Not an attorney, not a prosecutor. If an attorney and a prosecutor is bringing anything, it's hearsay. It's not even admissible in a real court, which is why we have to take these things when they're talking about violating our constitutionally secured rights. You must take this into a federal court because the feds are the ones who administer Title 49, which is the travel issue. And Title 49 is based off of the Constitution because in the Constitution, only the federal government can write laws and administer anything regarding interstate travel. That includes the roads and the highways. States are allowed to participate, and that's in Title 49, Section 30303. Title 49, Section 30301 states that this program was established for commercial purposes. Commercial purposes. The states are allowed to participate, and they get funded for that participation. And then the states, because the states don't have police power. Did you know that? The states do not have police powers. They cannot have police power because you got to know the definition of police to know why the states can't have police power. Tallahassee versus Sac. It is not the duty of the police to protect you. Their job is to protect the corporation. That's what their job is. So now you thought you was getting pulled over by the state police, and if there is such thing as a state police, it means the state is a corporation because that is who police are there to protect. That's not N.E. talking. That's Tallahassee versus Sac. All right? And it's on the RVBey Publications website. SAPP. Tallahassee versus Sac. It's on the RVBey Publications website, driver's license fraud. So what is going on here? What's going on here is lack of information. The vast majority of people really, I don't care if you got a PhD, what do you call it, a BA, a BS, business, what do you call it, bachelor's, master's, PhD, doctorate, I don't care what you got. You don't know jack. How do I know? Because if you got a doctorate, you're bragging, but you pay taxes. If you got a doctorate, you're bragging, but you register your personal property as a motor vehicle, which means that you're engaging in commercial activity. Then you get a driver's license, which is giving you permission to do something that you have the constitutionally secured right to do anyway. But you got a PhD, you got a doctorate, and you're looking down your nose at people and you getting raped just like the little people you look down at. The only difference is you're a bigger jackass because you went to school, paid all that money, and you don't know nothing. You ain't protecting yourself. Most of the jobs that people go to college for teach you how to rape your own people and get a paycheck. Rape your own people and get a paycheck. Islam? And then what you're doing, you probably exerted energy, which means that's compensation, that's energy. That means that you made an agreement to get compensated for X amount of physical activity, which means that you're not a corporation, you're not taxable, but your job that you got because of your PhD and doctorate is taking income out of your check. Actually, they're stealing income, right? But you're so educated that you don't know how to protect your ass. But you got a good job. You got a good job, right? You went to their institution so that they can indoctrinate you for X amount of years, and you paid for that indoctrination to only end up at a place where you are raping your own people, and on top of that, you're getting raped. But you're looking down your nose at the little people, and you're worse than they are. So the issue here is we have to wake up. Everybody in here who has been molested in terms of your right to travel, please raise your hand. All right. Now, I want to ask you, what have you done about it? Don't feel bad, because this is where you got to step up the game. It's a game, but it's not a game. It's serious, but it's not a game. It's a game to these people at this municipal corporation, but it's not a game for you, because if your right to travel, let me show you how deep this right to travel thing is. If you can't travel on the land, what does that mean? You're a prisoner, yes, you are. But let's look at it in terms of something that you can document, because, see, if you say I'm a prisoner, you don't have no documentation to prove that, do you? Now, if you can't travel in the personal property that you expended energy in exchange for compensation to go and purchase, what does that mean? Anybody got a job? Anybody got a job here? Thank you. It prevents you from being able to take care of yourself and your family. That's slavery. The other way is if you are giving income. Now, I don't know about up here. Well, I'm just going to lump it into the whole motor vehicle program. If you're being compelled to give income to a Department of Motor Vehicles, right? Do you know what that's for? Do you know why you are allegedly required to give income to the Department of Motor Vehicles? Does anybody know? Because I know up north and in some places, on top of the motor vehicle raping, you got the municipal corporation who will once a year, if you register your personal property, hit you with a tax bill just because you registered your private property as a motor vehicle. But what are these corporations doing for you? Are they doing anything for you?
No.
Nothing. Did they produce a product? Did they produce a service? Anybody here think that they have produced a service that benefited you at all in any capacity? Because I have heard people think mental enslavement think that they provided a service.
Not whatsoever.
There's no service being provided. And let me just say this. If they allege to be providing a service, they cannot provide a service for which they are demanding income from you, and you don't have a choice in participating in it or not. That's not a service. Exactly. That's extortion. How many people know the definition of extortion? It's quite extensive, which is why we get raped on a daily basis. How many people know what liberties entail? Anybody? Anybody ever looked it up? Liberties. Yes. Basically, that is what your liberties entail. Your right to do whatever the heck you choose to do, long as you don't infringe on somebody else's physical human being space. Now, most of us, we've never investigated these municipal corporations. Never. We've never, and let me tell you, it was a great disappointment to me because about 3 months ago, and even before that, we asked all of our listening audience to do a research on the municipal corporation that is near them and come back and do a presentation, and only 2 people called in and did a presentation. Absolute travesty. Because I know everybody is getting raped by these municipal corporations across the land. Everybody. And only 2 people called in and did a report of any sort. 2. You know what that says to me? That the mental enslavement is so deep that you don't even care enough to go and find out who is raping you. Who is raping you? If you're going to bring a suit against somebody who is, arresting your constitutionally secure liberties, who are you going to list? What are you going to say about them? Where's the documentation to support it? No, because it's not the state. Not the state. I don't know nobody affiliated with the state that has ever stalked me on the land, pulled me over, and then made a demand of my private property on the side of the road. Never. And up here in this area, y'all don't even have state police on the so-called state police on the highway. Y'all don't even have state troopers. No, because I've seen the cruisers that be on the highway just stalking people left and right. Those are NYPD cars, right? It's NYPD cars that's stalking the people on the road. It's NYPD that's stealing people's personal property. NYPD that's kidnapping the people. The NYPD, New York City Corporation, said basically, unlike all you other municipal corporations, we're taking it all. We're not sharing it with no third-party towing contractor. We're doing it ourselves. Outside of New York City, these municipal corporations pair up with a contracted towing company, right? Not New York City. Your car, if your personal property is getting stolen, it's a New York City corporation tow truck coming to take your stuff. Or they put a boot on it. They put a boot on it, right? Which eventually means it's going to get towed, right? Because if you can't move it, right, then they're going to tow it. I'm telling you, they say that New York, the people in this so-called New York City corporation area is some of the most aggressive, rambunctious, bodacious people on planet Earth. Yet I can't understand how come none of y'all have taken down this get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to move your car from the left side of the street to the right side of the street. And if you don't, they're going to either ticket or tow your personal property. I don't understand how y'all let that go down. I'm in my good sleep about 5 o'clock in the morning, all right? And I got to get up at 6 o'clock to move my car, my personal property, to the other side of the street, and they call that a municipal ordinance, and nobody has challenged that. What people? What people? Where's the verification of that? Because let me ask you this: are y'all some of the people? Well, let's just say that you are. All that finance they collected from that. Are y'all getting some of that? Oh. But here's the other thing. I've been in other boroughs of this so-called New York City corporation. They don't do that mess. They don't do that. Some neighborhoods, they do not do that at all. So that's absolutely unconstitutional because that means that they're taking from one group of people and giving to another. That's unconstitutional. Sue. You have to sue in the federal court because how many people know that in the American Constitution as well as the Articles of Confederation, it states that there shall be no ingress or regress. Do you know what ingress and regress means? It means that your ability to come and go cannot be hindered. If you want to go to what they call Brooklyn, you got to pay. If you want to go to so-called Long Island, you got to pay, right? If you want to go to so-called Staten Island, you got to pay. If you want to come, if you want to come through so-called New York City Corporation, is free. But if you want to go back, they hit you with a minimum of about 25 to 30 notes going back. Well, if you take the George Washington Bridge south, there's no charge. But coming back, going north, George Washington, all your GPSs is going to route you to either the George Washington Bridge, the Harlem Tunnel, or the Lincoln Tunnel. That's why you got to learn how to read a map. Because there is a way to get from the south to the north without going and getting raced for what, like 15 notes? No, if you're coming through George Washington Bridge, Lincoln Tunnel, or Harlem Tunnel, isn't it like 15 notes? Isn't it 15 notes? 15 notes. 15 notes. You were just held, people are being held hostage on a daily basis and don't even know it. And then here's the thing. They say if you want to have an automobile, you got to register it, right? But they make it that you can afford to register it, right? Because you have to register, you have to have insurance, and in some places, some municipal corporations, they make you pay a property tax. So if you don't have the finance to do any of those, then you have to take what they call public transportation. But public transportation is not really public transportation if they're charging you a fee. So now what they're saying is, if we make it so that y'all can use your own property, we're not going to be able to make a profit with the subway, the buses, and the trains. So they're making sure that their subsidiary corporations stay in business. Yes, that's double dipping. Exactly. That's double dipping. And in some cases, triple dipping. But they're absolutely secure in this operation because they know the vast majority of people, especially the Moors, is not going to do the necessary research and free themselves. They know it. And unfortunately, you think they're not listening to this broadcast? Yes, they are. So when we give people homework assignments and only 2 people step up to the plate, they can go back to eating their steak or, book that ticket to go to, one of them St. Thomas Islands or something with their whole family, all right? We got to pick and choose which family member we can afford to bring with us. They bringing their whole family because they know that they can continue to rape us because we're not motivated to free ourselves. And I'll tell you, this is a team effort, all right? And let me tell you, I'm not trying to knock sons, but I know that you get a sister mad, she will carry this whole thing. She will carry this thing, because a lot of people don't know that the so-called civil rights, the whole, the boycott of the buses, that was started by the sisters. They was like, hell no, we ain't taking this no more. That was started and was maintained by the sisters because the sisters was the ones that was going on the buses to clean little European children behind, wash their dishes, clean their toilets, wash their clothes, iron it, and in some cases walk miles from the bus stop to get home. They was through. They got to do all of that. And I sit at the back of the bus. Some of them bus drivers, they was probably taking care of their children. Some of the people that got on that bus, they was probably taking care of their children. And they were through. Of course, there were some things that led up to that, but they was through. And they got the ball rolling. And they was mad as hornets and kept it rolling until they sent in this handsome dude called Martin Luther King. He was so suave and debonair, he was able to slither in and get all the sisters to change their minds. And that's how the boycott ended. But this is a team effort. All you sons sitting here without a mate, I know y'all got a mate. Probably got more than one. They all need to be here because this is a team effort. Them sisters are going to get it started, and y'all are going to assist by going and getting information and sitting down and strategizing and coming up with a plan. But without the sisters, I'm sorry to say, it's just going to be a lot of talk. Talk ain't bad, but we need the energy to get it started. Talk is great. Some of the talk I hear is great, but you're only half of the solution. Now, I can tell you, I can get mad enough all by myself and begin and take it to the end because I'm sick and tired of waiting for people. I've been putting out information for years, and we don't have nobody competent to stand up and talk. And people act like They don't have to talk. What do you think is going to happen when you take any type of a situation where your liberties are violated into a federal court? You think just because you take it in there, they're going to say, oh, look, these Moors is coming in. Let's give them back their liberties. Not going to happen. Everybody's got to learn how to stand up and talk. And you have to have verifiable documentation support what you're saying, or they're going to kick you out. And we got to learn to pool our resources, because if you really want to put a dent in this particular armor, unfortunately, we're going to have to strategize and pay the 400 notes to put the federal claim in. Now, some people can go this informal paupers route, but me personally, that to me is a trap, because ain't nobody in here pauper. None of y'all is in here. If y'all was a pauper, you're broke. Poor, pauper. If you were a pauper, you couldn't have a credit report. You should have a debtor report. How can you possibly be a pauper? How? Corporations are paupers because they bring nothing and do nothing. And nothing happens unless some flesh and blood brings some energy in and move. The whole purpose of the American Constitution was to ensure that no corporation can ever again rape and violate the constitutionally God-given liberties of the people ever again. And it ain't just the Moors, because this land used to be the land of the land of the free, home of the brave. When I was a little girl, this land was identified as the land flowing with milk and honey. In my mind, I was supposed to walk down the street and see just gold everywhere. That was the image that was brought to me when I was a little girl. And when I came here, I didn't know that wasn't what was going on. When I grew up and became aware, I didn't know that was not what was going on, because one of the things I have to give credit to my family about is they didn't worry about what was going to stop them or what might stop them. They just went ahead and did it. So that's the energy I got from my mother and my father. I just went ahead and did it. And if I got blocked, I found another way to do it. But that's not what some of my brothers and sisters have. And so we have to build ourselves up. If you think that you're not lacking in some way, and by lacking, I mean you got a low self-image, you got low self-esteem, and you got low self-confidence. We all have it. I had it. But I got into this Amway business, which was a journey. It was something I was absolutely supposed to get into, because it is through that vehicle I rebuilt myself like I became the $6 million woman. I became the priceless woman, because there's no price on that Moabite sister, right? There's no price on a Moabite son. You became the bionic woman or the bionic son once you start rebuilding yourself, because you have to first recognize that you have low self-image, you have low self-esteem, and you have low self-confidence. I know you do, because we all came through the same type of family upbringing. They tore you down to build you up. They didn't say things like, baby, you need to pick up some of them clothes and put them in the dirty hamper or fold them up. Nope, they didn't say things like that. They said, your room is filthy. You live like a pig. You're dirty. This and everything that was degrading to you tore you down. Stop slurping. That's nasty. You're not a pig. You're not an animal. Stop drinking like a dog. Stop all that slurping and shut your mouth. Flies are going to go in there. You know, that's all of that stuff wears on you. By the time you get to middle school, you're so insecure. You don't even know how to say hello to another child. And then sometimes in elementary school, you didn't talk to nobody because you didn't want to get rejected. And some of you guys know what I'm talking about, because even today, y'all will not say nothing to a female that you like because you're afraid she might shoot you down. But you will go for a job interview and get rejected and go to another one tomorrow. I have met some sons that got rejected by a woman one time and just became dangerous to the whole female population. But they will go and apply for a job over and over and over again, and there will be no problem. They will never go postal and blow the building up ever. But let one woman reject them, and they'll be going to buy a 9mm gun to shoot her. It's all about how we was raised. We have to be real with ourselves. We are all suffering in some way. And the only way that we're going to be confident enough to get up in front of people and talk is you're going to have to rebuild yourself. Trust me. Because I'm going to tell you, it's so funny because in my Amway days, I couldn't do a presentation to save my life. I had a 45-minute presentation I had to do one time. I was so nervous, I rattled it off in 15 minutes and was out the door. I didn't take no questions. I didn't stop, pause, or nothing. It was done. 45 minutes. It was done in 15 minutes because I was insecure. I would muddle up interviews, everything. It was just, and I'm a leader, so I've got this analytical mind, so I figured if I can, analytically make it automated in some way, I went to is creating a PowerPoint presentation that can do it for me. Because I was afraid to talk. But that Amway business had its benefits because I learned to build up my self-confidence, my self-esteem, and my self-image. And then I came here, and I started studying. And a lot of the information that I learned, everything that was said in one of these meetings, on an audio or a video. We didn't have many audios back then. There was more videos. I was jotting down notes and going on the computer and looking it up, pulling down the whole thing and researching it because I wanted to know. I didn't want somebody to just tell me. I wanted to know. And the more I found out, the madder I got. And it was that mad energy that helped me stand in front of a municipal employee, hearing officer, calling himself a judge for 23 minutes and go toe-to-toe. Because I listened to this stuff, and I studied, and I went to sleep listening to I would put things on audio. Let me go back, cassette, because we didn't have the the disc. We didn't have disc. So I would read a book onto a cassette. I would put some of these lectures and some of these DVDs onto a cassette, and I would listen to one side, going to sleep, and the other side when I woke up. And then we came out with the continuous play cassette, and it was on and popping because I had continuous programming all night long. All right? So if you're really serious about taking back your liberty, you're going to have to get this stuff into your head some way, somehow, because that's what's going to eliminate the fear. because everybody is afraid. You've been mentally conditioned to be afraid. You see them flashing lights, your heart starts beating faster automatically. The palms of your hands start sweating. Sometimes the flashing light is nothing more than an open sign at some sort of a food restaurant, but your heart starts beating faster anyway. That's mental conditioning, and it wears on you, and it speaks of fear. Now, I'm not saying that you should get all hyped up and go find trouble. You don't have time for that, because that's going to waste your time, especially if you're not ready. Because what's going to happen, they're going to kidnap you, and you're going to end up sitting in one of their dungeons for who knows how long, when you could have been home studying. You don't have time for that. None of us have time for that. Where we are right now is we need to study like our life depends on it, because it does. Our lives depend on us knowing this information, because we so have to pass it on to the next generation. If we don't have it in us, we don't have nothing to pass on to the next generation, especially because, see, you guys, all y'all are looking so good and handsome and everything, but any of y'all can have a baby? Can any of y'all have a baby? There's only 2 sisters here that can have a baby, right? So that means that these 2 sisters, y'all got made. It's into their heads that this information needs to go. Because when they get pregnant, they're going to be passing that information to the baby for 9 months minimum. They already got a head start. So are y'all passing it on to your mate when y'all get home? Then that means that the next generation is going to be the same place we are now. Unless y'all can have babies. Y'all can have babies now. If y'all want that job, y'all can have it. You mean your son? You don't kidnap. Right.
Right now, I'm trying to, I went to court. I try to file. They try to say I wasn't in court. They called my name. They said they called my name, but they didn't call my name.
Well, let me ask you, where's the mother? Where is she? But where is she? The Bronx is a corporation, so she can't be there. Well, let me just say this. One of the biggest challenges sons have is that, hold on, my earpiece is about to die. I need to switch. Hold on, because I'm going to break that down in a minute, because we're about to go on a campaign with that one, like we have been doing for a long time. Oh, wow. That means if they denied it with, well, let me explain to you why they can, because you are not the mother. And although they may never tell you this, and they may hype you up to believe, you have no rights where that child is concerned. It doesn't matter, honey. It really doesn't matter. If the mother is not involved, then they will automatically assume ownership. They will. And I'll tell you this. A lot of guys, they have a hard time with that. Well, let me ask you this. Were you with that mother when she had the baby? You was in the hospital? Were you in the hospital? Doesn't matter where you came from, honey, because you signed an birth certificate don't mean nothing. Really, that's just like to make you feel good. That's a make you feel good activity. Well, it doesn't matter, because the rights of the child all belong with the mother. That's why it is imperative that the mother wakes up and starts protecting her baby. But they got all of us confused. See, you think that is your child, when in actuality, they know that's her baby. That egg came here with her when she was born. No, honey. No. No, you did not. No, you are. Cause see, and then, well, technically, yes, she did. Well, here's the thing. Well, no, look, let me just say this. What you're demonstrating is mental enslavement because you were mentally indoctrinated to believe that. But explain to me how, because see, a lot of guys be like, oh, that's my blood, right? That's my blood, that's my seed. All right. Well, how did your blood get into that egg? How? Have you looked at the sperm? Because you can look at the sperm under a microscope and you will never find any blood. So at what point did the blood come from you to that egg? The vast majority of us don't even know. Because how many people here remember when the test tube baby was the big thing? I know I'm dating myself. Test tube baby was the big. Oh, I know, but see, they count on you. They count on you doing that.
I know it's a man and a woman thing, another man. You know what I'm saying? So I know it was a process of sexual intercourse that happened. The seed was planted. She became pregnant. You know, this was not the Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ process. No,
it's always Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ. But here's the thing. Did you know that the egg, all it needs to divide is a spark of electricity?
I heard that.
That went back in the test tube baby age. Oh, it just died. Hold on. See, one of the challenge that we have as a people is that we have to let go of the mental programming that's been working against us. Because let me tell you something. They could have never. Okay, but let me just say this. Can we agree that if she knew that if she came here with that baby, she probably would not have been so easy to abandon it? Because, see, the reason she has no problem abandoning it is because she thinks that baby came from your testicles. She thinks that's your child. And so since that's your child, you can deal with it. And it goes even further. Because most women think that your child, they can abuse it because they know if they abuse that child, it's going to hurt you. This is the game that is being played against us as a people right now, and it is that game that keeps child support business in operation. And we've got to let it go. The mother's got to let it go, and the son. Because on this land, the only thing going on is mother and son. And the misconception is that there is a mother, a son, and a child, but there is only a mother and a son. And guess what? The son is mother's child as well. Because if you injure a son who is hooked up with his sister, she will raise hell to get him back and protect him. I know because I did it for my son. Well, yes, but you are not the wrath of Allah, are you? There's a saying, hell has no fury like a woman scorned, right? Hell has no fury like a woman scorned. Well, I understand that, but see...
I know their child is my child, same as that's my, she's my queen, I understand. And I know that I'll take her
But here's the thing. Let me just say this. What you're saying. Let me just see. It is this type of mental programming that keeps these modern Europeans in a position where they can take the baby. All right, take the newborn baby and find out to a so-called foster family Because who abandons the child? The mother. But you're missing the point. All rights of the child reside with the mother. So if the mother abandons the child, the corporation is going to go in and claim it as a product. And they will make money, and that's why they were able to tell you that your case was dismissed with prejudice because you're not the mother, but you don't want to accept it. They're playing the game on you because you refuse to accept it. What you need to do is accept it and know what the game is so that you can collect the children because they know. And because they know and you don't, they're using your lack of knowledge against you, and that's why the babies are not with you. Nobody is saying that you can't take care of the baby, and nobody is saying that what you're trying to do is not noble, but you've got to know the information so you can empower yourself to get the baby back. That's the whole point. The baby is the whole point. And that's why they're kidnapping infants from mothers today because of that mentality. And they're getting away with it. I understand the warrior spirit. I understand. I do understand. No, I'm going to tell you why. Let me just say this. I'm going to tell you why I can't bring this down. I can't bring this down. No, I'm not upset. No, I'm just trying to get you information.
I'm not putting my business.
Maybe. No, I want you. I do want you to. All right. All right. No, we're always communicating with love, always. But see, in this particular arena, you know, you have to put on your big girl and your big boy drawers because we have to be able to passionately tear things apart without feeling like, oh, they're attacking me. No, I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just saying that's what goes on here. People, we're so emotional. These Europeans know we're emotional. They know we're emotional, and that's why they know exactly what buttons to push. Now, those buttons that they push, they're not productive. They don't help us in any way, shape, or form. They actually get us into a place where probably a couple days later we're thinking, what the hell happened? Because they know how to push our buttons. They know it. As mothers and sons and children, they know how to push our buttons. And let me just say this. The reason why I am kind of annoyed, and that's putting it mildly right now, is because I'm working with a sister whose baby was kidnapped. She has not been with her baby for about 2 months now. And we're getting ready to go into blitz mode to get the baby back. And if I have to count on my pennies and go over to the United Nations so that girl can get her baby back, I will do that. But let me tell you right now, you're never going to be able to go over to the United Nations about any issue regarding the rights of the child unless you are a mother, because they know, everybody but us knows, just like everybody but us knows that we are Moors. We're not Negro, we're not colored, and we're not black. We are Moors. We have a nationality. Negro, colored, black is a label. It doesn't tie you to any ancient people whatsoever. What? One of the reasons why they get sons full custody is because 9 times out of 10, I'm not saying it's the norm, but 9 times out of 10, most sons want to play. And so when you get into, you got to get the child to the school, you got to get the child to the doctor, you got to find daycare, you got to get a job that's going to work with you. They know that it's too much detail for the average son, and they will, how can I get rid of it? I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's everybody, but that's one of the main, it's a setup. That's what we got to recognize. Everything is a setup. When it comes to the children, it's a setup. When it comes to our right to travel, it's a setup. What we as a people have to recognize is we got to understand true science, true biology, so that we can better see the setup and turn it around so that it's advantageous to us, so that we can one by one knock it down. Because you may not have a good relationship with the baby's mother, but when I know with me, now I'm not saying this is everybody's situation, but I know with me, my children's father, he got a temper and short fuse, no space for foolishness, So I knew that in order for us to be able to work together, I was going to have to eat crow sometime. I ate plenty crow for the sake of my children so that me and their father can have a working relationship to the point where if anybody steps to those children today, he has my back. We show up as a united front. I'm the speaker and he's the enforcer. Trust and believe. That's the way it is. I worked hard to make it that way. Well, no, I didn't, because he got emotional for both of us. But somebody's going to have to decide to eat crow for the sake of the child. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you come in there as the wannabe father or she comes in there as the wannabe mother and they see that y'all are apart, they're going to play you against each other. I sat in child support court and I have watched them play the mother against the son and all the time, and guess who suffers? The child. Because some people don't care about the children. The children can ensure that they will have another crop of revenue generators. And that's why they ain't got no problem putting them in these awful so-called foster care, because some of those people that they have caring for the children are degenerates. I'm just going to say that because I don't even want to have that in my. They're degenerates, meaning they shouldn't be in the same space as a child, but they don't care about the child because they know if they put that child in the custody of some degenerate, it's going to injure the child's psyche, and that child is going to become a revenue generator, and when they get older. Mm-hmm. Exactly. They did because look at this. Because I have a friend who he works at an institution where they watch children who are taken from their parents. Now these are older children. And I remember I was talking to him on the phone one day, and he was like, I don't know why these children can't get it together. I was like, let me shut up. Then he said it again. I said, I'm going to button my lip. And then he said it a third time, and I couldn't keep my mouth shut. And I said, you know what? If I was to take you from the home you got now and stick you with a complete stranger in a place you ain't never been, would you get it together? I said, you need to shut up, because if it wasn't for that child, you wouldn't be collecting the paycheck, so you're part of the problem. So don't sit here and talk to me about this child that was removed from everything that it knows, now needs to get it together. you're part of the problem, and you need to recognize that. And after I chewed him up one side and down the other, he was like, you're right. I never looked at it that way.
He looks just like me.
A boy. Yep.
I'm like, yo, crazy. And at the same time, black and she changed the last thing. I mean, it's very stupid. I used to change it.
What's Harlem? Whose name? Yep, because when they talked about, they suspended your rights, that was just a formality. It was designed to stick the knife in you and get you out of character, because you never had any rights to the child to begin with. But they made you think that, so that when they took it away, or made you believe that they was taking it away, it tripped you out, which it was supposed to do. That doesn't mean anything. Mhm. Mhm. No, because all of that was just like a dog and pony show. Oh, honey, please, let me just ask you, who is doing the DNA test? Who works at the DNA facility that's doing the DNA test? Modern Europeans, right? What do they know about your DNA? Really? It doesn't matter. She works there, but she's running this through their system. She's mentally indoctrinated to follow their policies and procedures, because there's no DNA place that we as Asiatic people have. You know why? Because we're all related. That's a trap. That is just their way to get your intellectual property. And really what they're doing when they have you to come and give them the DNA is they're cataloging you. How many people watch National Geographic and they chase the animal down and they tag it? That's what they did when you surrendered your DNA. They tagged you. And then they telling you, oh, well, there's an X amount chance that you're the father. How the hell would they know? How would they know? And how is that even possible? That's a trick. That's a trick, because she's the mother and the father. You're the son. There's only mother and son going on. That's it. How many people, my younger brother went into this DNA because he wanted to know where he come from. How many people know people, I went and had my DNA tested. I know where I come from in Africa. Genealogy, and then they got this 1, 2, 3 DNA, something another. Trap. It's a trap. You know what's a trap for? Us, because we are out of our minds. Out of our minds. You going to a foreigner who don't know jack about DNA to ask them to tell you who your family is and where you came from, when all around you, any copper-toned person is your family and you came from planet Earth. If these people knew that much about DNA, they wouldn't give a jack about you. They'd be fixing themselves. Because they are missing serious DNA. If they knew that much about DNA, y'all could go straight to hell. because they would have been fixing themselves a long time ago, and we would have been extinct. But we're going to ask them, can you tell me where I come from? My younger brother went and did that class. Pay for it. Then he comes and he says, well, you know, 83% of you is white, so you might want to ease up on those white people. Well, hello, I am the original white person, okay? Then he says 23% came from Africa, 0% is Native American, whatever that is, and then 5% came from somewhere else. I said, so what did they do? Get parts from all these places, ship it to the delivery room, and have you made up? That is the craziest. And then they have a disclaimer. The disclaimer says, are you ready for this? The disclaimer says that the results are based on where people are today. Well, I'm an ancient being. I come from an ancient people. You can't use where people are today to tell me who I am because my ancestors lived on land that ain't here anymore. Thank you. You see how we are mentally conditioned? We're mentally conditioned to a lot of things. And they do this intentionally because we send our children to their institutions. Every school. Every school is sponsored by a municipal corporation. The municipal corporation is raping each and every one of us on a daily basis. They're never going to teach you how to be free of them in their institution. Never. Never going to happen. Let me tell you what they do. Well, that's just a little bit of the truth that's been denied. But let me just say this, and I know this as a mother because I went through this. When you send your children to these institutions that was established by a municipal corporation, they will send in their psychologist or their psychiatrist, right? Because now, and then they will ask you, they'll sit your child down unbeknownst to you, and sometimes they might even ask you, would you like your child to sit down with a social worker? You know, because they might have some issues that we can help them with. And because we really want the best for our children, we'll say, yes, I do. And those psychiatrists will get into that child's head because their job is to find out what you're afraid of. How many people remember there was a Law and Order episode, and it was based on something that happened in Guantanamo Bay. Is it Guantanamo Bay? Is that the little place that they had all the people being held? No, not Guantanamo Bay. It's down near Panama Canal. Is that Guantanamo Bay? Is that it? All right. Well, they had those people down there, and they would send in a psychiatrist to find out what they were afraid of. These psychiatrists wrote up reports and gave it to the wardens of the prison, and they would take that information and use it against the very people that they got it from to break their psyche. They're doing this in the elementary schools with the social workers, psychiatrists. This is what's happening in these institutions. And then they have teachers that will have you, they will sit your child down. Are you having a good day? Is everything all right at home? We gave them access to our children. And then what did we tell them as good mothers? You go to school and you do everything the teacher tells you to. So now when the teacher says, does your mother go out at night and party? Well, yes, she does. Do you not have food sometimes? Now, in the child's mind, if the food is late, the answer is yes. Because children don't work on real time. They work on children's time. So they'll say, right, exactly. They gather information. Next thing you know, DCF is knocking on your door. And you don't even know what happened. Does your mother hit you? Hell yes, I whoop my children so you can't hit them. I mean, but it's all reversed. They play on us and our lack of information and our emotions all the time. And that's why we got to go in to learn how to control our emotions. My mother is a dictator, all right? My greatest lesson on how to blank face came from my mother, all right? Because if with my mother would get on a whooping spree. I call it a whooping spree. And if your face looked anything but blank, you was getting a whooping. I didn't like getting whooping. I didn't do anything. Those were my older brother and sister talking when they should have kept their mouth shut. But everybody got a whooping. And if your face gave it away, you got a whooping. So I learned to have a poker face. Everybody must learn to have an emotionless face. Even if these people say something to tick you the off, you got to maintain your look. Now, when you get home or you get in the car, you can have a fit. But just like in The Godfather, because there's some clues, there's some keys in The Godfather, you never let your enemies know what you're thinking. But we don't never do that, do we? We get up in their face and we cuff them up one side and down the other. We let them know exactly how they affected us. And we walk right into their trap. Next thing you know, they call in their corporate security guards, and they putting cuffs on you, and now you're a revenue generator. And we got to stop doing that. We have got to, inform. Nobody's going to come and do it for you. Nobody's going to come and do this for you. You've got to recognize that you've been mentally conditioned, and it is your job to deprogram yourself. If I could get up into your brain and do some surgery and get that mess out, I would root it out, but I can't. I did a good job of rooting out a lot of crap in my head. Still working at it because there's stuff so deep in you that you are so not aware of, and it will come up and work against you. So you have to have some sort of a plan to at least put it on pause until you can get someplace by yourself and let it out and or deal with it. But you don't want these people to know how they affected you because they are going to use that against you. And how many people saw that Sandra Bland recording? Sandra Bland when she was her liberties were violated. She was abused and subsequently murdered. Sandra Bland, one of the things that they always use against us is reverse psychiatry. If you listen to the recording, the guy was upset, but he said to her, "Are you upset? You seem agitated." She really wasn't. He was. But they said that to her, and that's something they use against us. As soon as they say, "Are you upset? You seem agitated," most of the responses from our people is, "Hell yeah, I'm fucking mad." Now, they said that so that they can have documentation that you are violent and out of control. It's a setup. It's always a setup. And that's why we as a people, we have to get our emotions under control. We got to inform ourselves because they're using information against us that we don't know. And we got to study the law. The law on this land is the American Constitution. You've got to get a grip of that. And I would suggest you go on the RVBey Publications website and read the 1774 letter to the people of Great Britain, because exactly what's in that letter is what is going on right now. Your liberties are being violated by all these corporations. You got corporations within corporations within corporations, and they're all profiting off of your lack of information. And then they got the nerve to say, you want to go to school? Would you like to have a degree? Degrees is not a piece of paper. Degrees is the rising of your mental, spiritual faculty. That is a degree. The first degree in Islam, I am not Negro, colored, black. If you cannot get past that, leave them alone. Exactly. So that's the first degree. Everything is by degree, but degree is inside of you. It's not anything outside of you, and it is not something that you can buy. All right? So we've got to do the work. Nobody is going to do it for you at all. And we've got to do it for ourselves and the future generation. Because if we don't, they're going to continue to use us and our babies as revenue generators. That's just the way it is. Islam? Oh, no. Brother Lawrence, do you have a question? Oh, yeah, because they're trying to validate why they murdered them. But here's the thing. I know there's probably some people in here who think they got arrested. Unless you injured somebody's life, unless you took somebody's life, No. See, all of that is bull crap. Bull crap. It's because, see, all of these everything that any state or municipal corporation is doing is based on federal statute because they can't write jack. Article 2 of the Constitution, or rather, I should say Article 1 of the American Constitution, all legislative powers is vested in the Congress of the United States. You know what legislative power? That is the ability to write. All legislative powers is vested in the Congress of the United States. Article 2. All executive powers is vested in the President of the United States of America. That means that any union state, the only thing that they can do under the authority of their president is administer the law of the United States. All of these corporations are federally funded. All right, and they come in as contractors. You don't have that, honey. You all of these people think they're in federal prison. There's no such thing. That sanctions the Fed. That's why every prison is a private, they call it a prison industry. So why is that? If it's in terms of the people, the prison industry, that means that you're missing all the people. Our industry. But you may not be able to shut it down unless you can get enough people together. And you need to do appropriate research for your situation. Things that they know they can get you sons for, because you guys love guns. And there's nothing wrong with that. We created the most beautiful instruments that they called. They were absolutely many years. Say your ancestors made them. You today have one. A weapon. You have a right to bear arms. Well, let's look at that, because I hear people saying that all the time. Oh, you're a 14th Amendment subject. Well, the United Nations has a mandate that these so-called governments, schools, churches, synagogues, institutions must tell the people who they are. Of course, but you can't not do the job and then use the fact that you're not telling the people to then classify them as a 14th Amendment being and make and make profit off of them. That's human trafficking. That's human trafficking. Well, actually, how they keep it going is the vast majority of Asiatic, that's the copper tone people, they don't know jack. And there's a huge population of them being mentally indoctrinated every Sunday at church. and that pastor that's up there preaching to you every Sunday, usually it's a guy, because they close ranks on a sister that tries to come in, because they don't want her to get that free 501c3 funny, It don't matter, because it all falls under Title 26, which is Internal Revenue Service. And if you are benefiting under Title 26, you are a bona fide traitor to your people. If you're benefiting over Title 26, which means you have a 501c3, you're a bona fide traitor to your people. So now you got to really look at all these pastors that's got the people coming in. I need to see your birth. I need to see your marriage license. I need your license. I need your license. Give me your license. And then on top of that, he's exempt from taxation. Well, he's going to charge you, ask you for some income to perform the wedding ceremony. Income that you was taxed on, that you're going to give to him, that he's not taxed on because he's turning you over to Roman. But we think that we're entering into a sacred union because we love this man or we love this woman, when in actuality, you're entering into a contractual obligation with a municipal corporation. It's not even the state. Look at the marriage license. That application you get from a county, a county registrar. County registrar. Now, they changed the name because people started getting hip. You registering me? People got hip. They changed it to vital statistics. But in some old building, they still got the little plaque outside of the door that says registrar. I'm old school. I'm a 60s child. I remember it. Registrar. They changed it to vital statistics because people started getting hip. What you registering? You get the death certificate. You get the birth certificate, which creates the fiction and starts the human trafficking, and then they add collateral with the marriage license, because if you have a marriage license, it is treated as a business. The child that you have is not looked at as a flesh and blood being. It is looked at as the fruit of the business. Therefore, it can be. And then, once you pass, they got to close out the account and give you the death certificate. And everything in between there is just straight up robbery. And we don't know this because we've gone to the very institution that the municipal corporation has set up. If it's a corporation, it was established to rape you. Because that's the purpose. Now, here's the thing, and a lot of people miss this. What product was every corporation producing? Tell me. Anybody? Now, somebody might say, well, you know, I got my phone from Verizon, so that's a product, and they giving me internet and cellular phone, so that's service. No, baby. Because Verizon, if you probably do the homework, probably ain't even a corporation on American soil. Probably wasn't even a corporation that was established by any true American. And so, that being the case, where they get the resources to make the phone. Did they bring it here on their back when they came over here? On with Christopher Columbus on the Santa Maria, and did they bring it on their back, or the Mayflower, or the Good Ship Jesus? Did they bring that on their back when they came over here? No, they didn't, because the majority of modern Europeans that came over here with Christopher Columbus on the Mayflower came out of the prisons of Great Britain. They were thieves, robbers, and rapists. Came over here to work. And then we get all upset because they say, well, let's trace my family to the Mayflower. Well, you must have been all that. I know I better not trust you. Well, here's the thing. The school begins in the womb, all right? So, see, we got to go back to how we did things in ancient times. First of all, it started with the mother. The mother first had to have the knowledge in order to give it, all right? And then for 9 months, she was carrying that child. Everything she said and did and came into contact with was being imprinted on that child, and that's why to this day you will never see a Hindustani sister out in the public pregnant. Never. Never. Hindustani, they call them Indians. You'll never see them out in the public because they understand the science. So now, if the child, they stay home, and their mate will work 2 or 3 jobs and sleep on the floor to make sure that she stays home so that she can imprint on that child exactly what they decided that child is going to come here with. And you will never visit their home because you got negative energy and they don't want that around their precious child coming in. I know, because I used to hang around them. I can tell you. That's our family. They are still using the science that we have abandoned. Right? So now once that child gets here, if the child has the necessary information passed to it from the mother, it comes here, hit the floor running. And I have a friend in the sky called a son and a daughter, and them children was imprinted in the womb. And it is a wonderful thing to see the Moorish son with their feathers on. When their mama was pregnant, they was all standing guard up and the doctor was nervous. His hands were shaking. So he had the father and 3 sons. With their feathers on. He was scared. Do I have permission? Yes, you do. All of them in unison. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. And when that when the daughter came in, the wrath, because the mate, which is the oldest son, the mate sent correspondence before the wife even got to the institution, letting them know, this one here is not yours. And some of those employees in that hospital wanted to try it, and the hospital attorney came up to him and said, try it, and you will be fired right now. Because it's all about knowing who you are, respecting each other, because, see, the mother was able to relinquish to the son because he had demonstrated that I'm on it. I got your back. Ain't nothing going to go down that you don't want to go down. So she was able to relax and have that baby in peace. And those children never been poisoned with immunization, never been in a so-called public institution, and they know several languages, and they know law, and they know exactly who they are. When they see modern Europeans on the land, they will turn to their mother and father and say, look at them squatters. They're squatters, Dad. Look at the squatters, Mom. Now, they're saying that to their parents. They're not being arrogant and calling the modern Europeans that, but they know. How were they able to get that way? Because they was imprinted from the womb, came out running. Now, a lot of these children go to conventional, what they call public conventional institutions, but the way we used to do it is we didn't try to put a trade on you. We watched you to see what you gravitated to. Of course, you learned the basic reading, writing, basic mathematics. You learn certain things like how to run a business, how to run a home. And then as you got older, you let your parents know what you was drawn to. You didn't try to put you in a type of a, you could have been a square. We tried to put you in a circle. Or a circle, we trying to put you in a square. We didn't do that. And everything that we did was not about making money. It was about expressing your creativity. That's why we used to have people who would, this crap we're sitting on, we never had this stuff. This is probably, it's not even really good. Stuff we used to make. Now everybody goes to Moor, Sheridan Furniture, Walmart, whatever your place is, you buy little crap. You put it in it's like this. We never did that stuff. Where are our whittlers? Where are our carpenters? Where are we got all these people who I can't get a job. Why you need a job? Get some wood and make something. Make a bookshelf. I need some bookshelves. I have books back here. Get enough shelves to put them on. Make a chair and put a piece of cushion on there and sit on it. How many people have a couch that you had at some point in your life thrown away? You ever throw it out on the road and you looking at it and you're like, I can't believe I paid all that for that piece of crap. Because once you turn it upside down and the springs are all gone, you really see just how crappy that piece of furniture really was, and you probably spent $500. I was watching on some of these commercials, and they had like the Bob commercials. A three-piece living room set for $1,500. $1,500. It's a piece of crap. I'm serious. And then I like HGTV because I love to build and, do stuff like that. So I'm watching HGTV and they got all these fixer-upper. We don't buy it. They ain't buying jack. If you watch it real good, they ain't buying nothing. They show up and open the door and you ain't seen no finance change hands. See? They're claiming Federal Reserve notes. They bought it supposedly, but there's no money. So at least you should see some Federal Reserve notes change hands. You should at least see them in a bank somewhere transacting some business. Nope, that's all you see is them opening the door and going in, and they start tearing down and rebuilding up. And because they know that we are so unintelligent, they standardize everything. You can go find a house in California that they call themselves, what's the word? I can't remember the word. They gut it and rebuild it up, right? I can't remember the word. Refurbish, all right? Renovate. Thank you. There you go. Renovate. A house in California that they renovated, a house in Florida, near Florida Corporation that they renovated, a house near Texas that they renovated, a house in Michigan that they renovated, and they all look alike. They all got the same counter, they all got the same stove, they all got the same refrigerator, they all got the same kind of floor. Standardized. Exactly. And you know what's crazy? My dad's a carpenter, master carpenter, across the board, right? Now I'm listening to my dad talk, and my dad says that he did everything. He didn't farm out nothing. He did the electrical, he did the plumbing, he put down the cement, he put up the walls. He didn't farm out nothing. He did the what do you call it? The sheetrock and the taping. I didn't even know taping was a separate profession. I didn't even know. Well, we taped it. He might hire some. He had a crew. He had a crew. I was like, I had a crew. All these years, my dad had a construction business. I didn't even know. You're right, and that is my point. Today, it's as though our sons have gotten straight up lazy and unimaginative, and not passing on. No, because one of the things that I hear my dad saying is that he tries to pass it on to the next generation, but they weren't interested. And I'm like, damn, I mean, why you couldn't pass it on to me? I would do it. If I could go back a couple of years, I would be a contractor. Because it's creative. A lot of the stuff that we used to do, modern Europeans did. My dad is telling me how they're bringing their 13, 14-year-olds to work with them in the summertime, right? They're passing the trade on to their 13, 14-year-old sons. What is our 13, 14-year-old sons doing? That is our craft. This is our history. This is what we are supposed to be. And so now, my dad, we used to be the lumber mill. We used to do the lumber. The lumber mills are all owned by modern Europeans. Right, catering, yes. But these are things, believe it or not, that we can get back. We have the ability to get it back. You don't have to start big. You can start small. Somebody in here would just love, or maybe even have a little bit of electrical skill. All right, I would hire you. If I have my dad, I had a conversation with my dad the other day because for about a year I've been talking about I need my car fixed, right? So my dad was like, well, how can you tell me? I could have brought it to my mechanic and it would have done it in 2 days. Well, his mechanic is a modern European. I ain't bringing it to him. I will wait on my cousin's son and put the finance in his pocket before I put it in a modern European's pocket. I'm not doing that if I can. Not doing it. So we need to be doing that. There's got to be some electricians in here somewhere. There's got to be, You know, look, I got a hole in my wall. I need somebody to come and patch it. All right? I got a little bit of plumbing issues. You know, I would pay somebody to take care of it. I would. Don't be trying to charge me through the nose now, but I would do it to keep my people in business. That's exactly how it works. Let me tell you how I know this is how it works. My dad's next door neighbor is an Italian, all right? Because she is an Italian, because there is really no such place for people as Italians. I'm European, all right? There's no Asiatic Italians because the original people of the land they call Italy was Moor. All right? But she's an Italian. So my dad was getting his oil tank filled up one day, and I said, did she use the same oil contractor as you? He said, oh, no. Anything she got to do is with Italians. We're not. Why are we not like that? We are the majority of the population on planet Earth, but we go to everybody else but our own people. Well, I know, but we got to change the conditioning. But you know what comes along?
Communication and socialization. Everybody with that element. Don't nobody even communicate. Everybody wants to think. Everybody wants to come up in their way.
Hello. So this right here is a community. This is a community right here. Yes, but we're talking. All right. But see what you're. Well. Well, this particular social establishment has been here for 10 years. Every Wednesday, doors open between 6 and 6:30, so that begins between 7 and 7:30. And as of 2013, we have MHHS, Eyes Wide Open, Blog Talk Radio. We get together and build every Tuesday, 9:30 to 12:30. Every Wednesday, if you can't make it here, we broadcast this over the airways. So you don't get to be here live. You can listen to it on the airways, and all of the classes are archived. Then every third Thursday of the month, we have Sons About All with a Brothers Build, and then every third Sunday at 1 o'clock, we have Sisters Standing on Law with a Sisters Build. So we are building. Did you unmute your phone?
It's in starting the community as we exist, right, brother? Okay. And yeah, but see, all right, see, we don't domicile as close to you, but you're saying let's change phone numbers and stuff. Yeah. But we're RVBey Publications, which you can reach. We have 4 programs that you could call in. Can you? Yeah.
Well, hold on now.
Hold on. He's talking about the community. He's talking about the community around him right now. Right? I don't know what he's doing because he's looking down. I feel like I'm not even talking to him. His attention is somewhere else.
Because it's like we got 6 minutes left. I do want to tell you this.
Yeah.
Not us per se. We have a forum we can talk and then build and ask questions. Use your phone. Echoing. Okay, you can talk, build, ask questions, share, but what you want, you need the Moorish directory. MoorishDirectory.com. It's already in operation. All right, so we got MoorishDirectory.com, and there's you can look for, you can find what you're looking for there, but you can also find what you're looking for here. You just need to come, talk, communicate. I mean, nobody's stopping anybody from doing that here. I mean, I know I do it, but
the people that are here other than to be active wards. We do.
All right, well, before we get there, before we get to that and close out, we need to also, before we can get into, all of these other industrious things, which is absolutely, I'm just trying to put a seed in somebody's head right now, all right? And hopefully it will germinate and grow. But the first thing that we as a people individually must do is work on our own brain, this space between your ears. That has to be worked on first, because if you don't work on that and you call yourself trying to exchange something with someone else, you will fall into that modern European mental space, and you will rape your own people once again. So we can't even talk industry big time until we first clean out all the crap that we got in our heads. And we must get control of our emotions for ourselves, our people, and the issues that we have as a people. We must do work on those things before we can even talk about industry on a big scale. Is that?
Yeah, well, we do have 4 programs, so this gives you all the programs you can call on the phone. You don't even have to show. All right, there you go. And some information. All right, now, whoever, where you going?
Where?
No, I'm not muted. I'm not muted. All right. Oh, it's on Bluetooth. Oh my God. All right, listen up, everybody. Me too. I just click it.
Click it where?
You hit it like that. All right, let's. What did you? I think it just went on. I went back on Bluetooth. All right, we weren't gonna. I'm okay now. I'm all right now, right? I'm all right now.
Can we get a copy of the started when you open up?
Yeah, it's in the Moor slips here. We got it over here. There's books over there. She was gonna do a month. Am I okay? Am I all right now, Anaïs? Yeah. Oh, okay. She was going to do a mock court, kind of a mock court, but even though we knew that really our deal is not to be in court because they're not courts. That's really it. But in order to be able to do that, of course, you would have to know how to have your foreign procedure, which are written, and how to go in when you go in. What's happening is that many people who may not have paid much attention to this information before and try to avoid going into the courts before are now forced to go in now based on certain things. Some are, and even some who already know are. But it still doesn't change the fact of that the paperwork, because law is paperwork. Law is notice, period. It's back and forth. The real court is the paperwork, which is what you speak out, what you must write, because if you don't write it, it didn't happen. All right? So now many people are forced to go in that didn't even want to do anything before. You got me? He's laughing because you know what I mean. So with that, sometimes we all have to make that special appearance. You got to know to make a special appearance, especially now. But for those who never did go in because they wanted to avoid it, now they can't really avoid it, you got to know what to do. And remember, just hold it down. And yeah. And this is going to be the bailiff. You know what I mean? You know what a bailiff is, right? They would, well, what they say it is and what it actually is. Really, the Bey is a law enforcement. That's what Bey is. L's and Beys, lawmakers and law enforcers. When she was telling you earlier, mother and son, the mother is the lawmaker. Every baby that she puts out is on their leg on her. That she just laid down the law, and then the son are the law enforcers. You see what I'm saying? So the Bey obeys the law is what the Bey is. So he used to enforce the law. Doesn't mean the mothers can't be Beys or the sons can't be L's, but we are the L's and the Beys, lawmakers and law enforcers. So now they mock off of that, and they have what they call a bailiff or a Bailey week, a bailiff in the court. They're talking about you. Wow. You never heard about a bailiff? Yeah, it deals with the bail too. And they don't even have it. Bailey week. Huh? You don't challenge anyone. Well, you do challenge. You do law. Law is notice in written form. The first question is, like, jurisdiction. The first thing is status. You have to be in your proper person, period. There's three main things. Status. Then it's jurisdiction and / venue, and then they go to adjudication. But if they can't get past your status, because who is he? If he's a foreigner, he can't. You're a corporation. And matter of fact, and where are we as far as jurisdiction on venue? You know, where are we? Well, where are we? Really, where are we? And where are we? Is this a court? Or where am I? You know, like, what is it? And then you get on to the adjudication. If they can get past those things, you have to stand firm. And let me just say this. They will test you to the end now, and many fall. They will threaten and coerce you. They will tell you, you know you're going to jail today. Just stand, because they're talking shit. Huh? They're firm. But the only thing that's going to stop that from them continuing to operate with the force is for us as the people to be also stand with the force. Doesn't mean we got to have guns and knives. It just means we have to know we're family and act like it, and then know the law. Okay, we don't want to act like we're really family because we don't know each other. Can't we not act like we know the law of the land, which protects everybody? That's the easiest thing. That's why the prophet said, you don't do anything else than force the Constitution for the United States of America, because it was established for these foreigners and for you to enforce it against anybody violating it against you. So even if we just did that much, I'm telling you right now, the Constitution, that's the call of the day. Now, I had someone out there tell me that they were going to be they're going to take all the Moors and put them in Guantanamo Bay. That's like that's crazy stuff. We have to just unite as family. We have to know the law of the land and be it, and just enforce it. It's so easy to do, even if someone doesn't want to say, I don't know if we're all family. Some of us did come over on the fourth leg of the conquest intent, like they have at Ellis Island, from the African coast, as African slaves. But the first thing they say is the people were here to look like us already when they got here. But we were still all one family. Even the Moors who got brought over on African slaves, which is far less than what they said, trust me, at least, they're still our family. But when they first came, they know we were Native Americans, copper color. Later on, after they, killed everybody with viruses because they had that. Then they went from conquest, colonization to immigration. From conquest to immigration. So conquest to colonization, because what else can you do on someone else's land but colonize? To immigration, which is to bring everybody else from the family over, and then to enslavement, which is when they went and got the African oppressment off of this coast, but we were already here. Then they went to annexation. So what I'm saying, it doesn't really matter all that they did. What matters is all of these people were occupying the land. They're all family, and the law of the land was for everyone, and it's for the Bey to enforce. All day, the law. Right, but they're looking out for their own family of corporations. The Constitution was written to protect you from being violated by corporations, and that's exactly what has happened because we're not enforcing it. And that's why the prophet said, you must enforce it so that you're not molested by other citizens. And here we are trying to feed them citizens. So we'll be here next week, though. We will be here next week. You'll be here next week? All right, good. I want to see you. Brother Ali, it's so good to see you. Do you mind doing the invocation now? We'll see you next week. You gave it out to anybody who was here new, right? All right, great.
Islam. Bow on the left, to the right, repeat after me. Allah, version.
Allah.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed.